Fucking hell, I get the name wrong. I mean, what a great Let's hope that bit wasn't actually on the stream, eh? And then, so obviously we've really briefly bastardized logic there.
Now it turns out that atheists are in the majority everywhere in the world and always have been. In fact, atheists were in the majority before there were people.
But they've got the lowest average IQ.
And, that's right. Yeah.
Look at his face.
Bye.
I like the man on the left and the man on the right. Hello and welcome to the Fresh Air Sci-Fi Show. I'm Joe.
And I'm Dave.
And
I'm the man on the right.
I don't know if any of you caught that right there at the beginning, but we've had a little intro that we were trying for the first time. I've been messing around with new bits of software. Hopefully everything is actually coming through as it's supposed to. And, you know, when you try a new bit of software, sometimes things don't exactly go to plan. So anyone out there who can let us know about anything that you see on the screen tonight that you either like or dislike or whatever, that'd be absolutely fantastic. I can see a few of you joining us on Twitch, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Hey there, OP, you like the intro? That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you, dude.
Nice one.
We'll continue to tweak the intro and various other intros over time. That one was just a little bit of fun.
Hi. We're just testing it out, seeing if we can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, the over-the-top music for what we're doing, really serious and ominous, where we're just sitting there giggling at each other, kind of appeals. So the other thing that we obviously have to address tonight is the fact that this man right here, well, you've got some fantastic news, and I don't want to, steal your thunder.
Can you hear me farting, can you? Thunder? Wait, was it that bad? No. I finally got my marks back for my masters this week, and I passed.
Yeah, well done. And not only did you pass, go on, brag a little.
Yeah, I actually passed with distinction.
How awesome is that? Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well done, Dave, honestly.
Nice one, thank you. And thank you, OP.
So now he's actually distinctly certified to sit here and tell you all these things that he's been telling you so far. Obviously, tonight isn't actually going to be covering that. We're going to be talking about Pascal's wager. And there's the very rudimentary understanding of Pascal's wager that many people have, which is essentially just saying that, well, you may as well believe in God because, that if you don't and he does exist, then, well, you're going to go to hell, so you may as well bet on that. And then there's the common rebuttal that I've heard and thought of myself, but it was popularized by The Simpsons, called Homer's Wager, for the sake of this. Hi, Josiah. And I've lost my train of thought there. And Homer's Wager is basically if you are betting on the wrong god. So what happens if you are believing in the wrong god? You're pissing off that particular god, and then your punishment would be even worse than not believing in any. But those are very, very rudimentary understandings and arguments for and against Pascal's wager. Would you like to just tell us a little bit more about them?
Okay, Pascal's wager originally was something a little more complicated than that. It's sort of been bastardized by modern apologists and used in the wrong way. Originally, it was aimed at those people who were sat on the fence, not agnostics, but who felt like they had no real reason to commit to faith. They weren't full of doubt, but they didn't want to commit either. They just didn't have enough to convince them. So Pascal came up with the wager. And it's based on, imagine if there was a lottery running somewhere and it costs you 1 penny to enter and you could win £1 million, $1 million, what have you. The chances are low that you'll win, but you still won't win if you don't play. And to lose 1 cent to gain $1 million seems like a minimal risk. And that's kind of how he looked at it with God. He only discussed the Christian God because, of course, at that time, that's what it was. It was the Christian God. That's what was most popular. But when you say what happens if it's the wrong God, it's not really a particularly good counter to the argument because he's just saying bet on the Christian God because the Christian God gives you these benefits. And he didn't actually acknowledge any other God. And if you think about it, how many other gods are there that say that they will punish you for worshiping the wrong God?
Well, no, only the Abrahamic deity, really. Oh, Dave, your internet's gone again. And you're back.
It has.
But yes, sorry, to
I'm
answer your
sorry.
question again so you can hear that. Generally, only the Abrahamic deity springs to mind. There probably are some others out there that I'm not aware of, but definitely whether we're talking of the Christian God or the God of Islam. Hey, Martin, thank you for just subscribing. I'm surprised you weren't already.
Ooh.
Yeah. But yes, so realistically with that, I understand what you're saying. Oh, it's come through as well. Thank you for subscribing. It's come through to the whole thing there. Sorry, as I said, we've been messing around with new software and all of that. So there's all these new features and things that I've been putting in. It's also got a little thing where it does have a viewer counter on it, but it's only telling me the viewers on YouTube, which is odd because it said it could do the others. And I can see that there's about 5 of you over on Twitch right now as well. Not that it really matters anyway. I'm digressing from the point. So anyway, you were saying, Dave. Oh, you're typing. Can't
I
do
was
both
just saying thank you to Martin. Yeah. So when you say, well, what happens if it's the wrong God? Well, it's a valid point because it could be another God. But will that God actually punish you for getting it wrong? That's the question. So if it's a deistic God and it's a God that just lights the torch paper and goes and doesn't punish or benefit, then
yeah, sorry, you've cut out there again, Dave. Your internet is going a bit funny tonight. And you're back in the room.
What?
You cut out there.
No, I'm sorry.
Hi, Alan. How you doing? Glad to have you here as well.
Hey, Alan.
So, yeah, if you consider, for example, the Hindu faith, generally it doesn't matter whether you believe or not. For example, it's as long as it's more about karma. It's more of a cosmic scale of good and bad and whether you go on to a better life or not, and they almost accept all gods as different aspects. So realistically speaking, if you had an A-B choice there, then the sensible choice would obviously be the Abrahamic deity. You might have a bit of a split between, well, is it the Islamic version or the Christian version? That would be a harder choice between the two. But yeah, fair. So that is one of the reasons why that isn't the best counter to it, unless there is other gods that you could think.
Yeah, that's it. It's still an okay counter because you can say, well, what about all these other gods? How do you know yours is the right one? And lead into a discussion about the actual Abrahamic God and whether it exists and, the features. So you can enter into a conversation. And that really is the best way to attack Pascal's wager, is to critique the Abrahamic God and say, well, why would I want to bet on this when it's clearly not true?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things is they say, you lose nothing by betting on this God. So what you can do is turn around and say, well, okay, I might not lose anything, but others might lose out because of my actions, because I'm following this particular religion, this particular style of religion. Like if you think about some of the fundamentalists in America stopping gay marriage, treating women badly, those kinds of things. Like you get, I've not read Pascal's mugging. Yeah. Opie just mentioned Pascal's mugging, and I've not read it.
Okay.
But yeah, that you can attack it that way as well. You can say, well, look, I could be causing harm to others by betting on this God and betting on your version of this God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. So we got Alan, thank you for subscribing. Yeah, Pascal's mugging. We should definitely check that one out. And yeah, Carol, Dave is comfortable as hell. He's always chilling. But the last couple of streams, for some reason, we've been having a bit of an issue with his internet, and he keeps freezing like that. And he's back again.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, it's not just that I'm comfortable. I'm just very, very sleepy. All the adrenaline's gone from passing now.
So Alan says as well, if logically correct, it should push us to find the god with the worst hell. I mean, that's if you're saying there are actually lots of gods that exist, and actually you've just got to try and protect yourself from the worst one. That's an interesting take on it. I mean, generally you'd be assuming that there is only one particular true faith, wouldn't you, in this situation, where you'd be going, well, I need to bet on one, so the most sensible one. The biggest problem I have with this, though, is I can't choose to believe. I can't go, well, actually, just because it's safe to bet on this one because it's got the worst hell, if I operate with these parameters and pretend that I'm a good Christian person and do all the things a good Christian does, I mean, really, an omniscient God will know that I don't believe. And if a key part of it is the belief side of things, then surely that won't be any good anyway, would it?
Well, Pascal covers this. What he says is that God will know you're not truly believing in the beginning. But if you put your effort into doing good works and behaving according to the Christian Bible, according to the Bible, according to the Christian God, and doing what's asked of you, you will eventually come to believe for real. You will be so steeped in the culture and listening to the arguments and listening to other Christians talk about God, and you'll be training yourself to see God in everything. So eventually you will come to believe. So it's a sort of fake it till you make it, but that's not strictly accurate. He's not asking you to fake it. He's just asking you to put your effort into trying to live that life and then learning more and more and coming to see God.
Do you think that that's actually possible for someone to do, though? Do you think anyone can actually just... I mean, is it almost a Pavlovian dog style thing? Eventually, if you act like a Christian enough, you'll be one and actually start believing it?
Well, the point is that one of the reasons that he would see it as you not believing, you're not arguing against the existence of God. You just don't see enough reason to take that leap of faith.
Right. But you're gone again.
Damn it. Yeah, you don't see enough reason to actually take the leap of faith. but you're sort of convinced that it's possible that God exists. And it's aimed at those kind of people. So he's thinking that if you bet on God and are convinced by this argument that you don't want to lose out, um, then you will get steeped in the arguments for God and eventually come to actually believe them. One of the reasons he put the argument forward was skeptics who say that there are no reasons to believe in God. And then this is a reason to believe in God.
Yeah. I think that's one of the troubles I actually have with a lot of the skeptic lines of thought on the deity. They say there's no evidence, there's no reasons, there's no this. There are reasons. There's plenty of reasons. There's plenty of evidence. It's just not particularly strong, convincing evidence. It's that whole debate of, evidence is something indicative, isn't it? So if something points towards a conclusion, regardless of how strong it is a form of evidence. That could be an anecdote or testimony or anything like that. That is a form of evidence, just not necessarily a good one.
Well, this one is less a form of evidence and more just a reason to believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just going down those lines of
Yeah.
If there's no reasons, there's no evidence. There are reasons, there are evidence. It's just most of us don't find them particularly strong or convincing. And unfortunately, it causes people to then go, well, if it's not strong or convincing, then it's not evidence and it's not a reason. Well, actually, no, there's still reasons, there's still evidence. But yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And Pascal even states in his original writings that he doesn't think this would convince a skeptic. And it's not aimed at convincing a skeptic. It's simply aimed at the fence sitter or the person who might be losing their faith and saying, well, I'm not seeing reason to believe in him anymore. Well, here's the reason.
Yeah, I suppose if you're in that state where you are starting to doubt it, and actually they turn around and say, well, you may as well believe because, if it is true, then I suppose it would be something that at least held on to them for a little bit longer. And as you mentioned earlier, hopefully will reconvince them by going through the motions over and over again.
Exactly. And it's one of the reasons why I say that many modern apologists are using the argument incorrectly, because they're trying to convince people like you and me with Pascal's wager, and it was never intended to convince somebody who was already unconvinced. Not convinced, yes. Unconvinced.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you've gone frozen again there. So obviously there's it's like the split between I don't believe this and I disbelieve it. I'm not convinced by this and I am unconvinced by it. It's sort of the same sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And even agnostics, those agnostics who have reason to doubt but aren't convinced by the disbelief side, it's not even aimed at them either, because they have good reasons to doubt. It's aimed at those who just have some doubt. Not, well, look at these arguments. These show that it seems unlikely that God exists. It's not aimed at those kind of unconvinced people, not convinced people. It's strictly aimed at the, well, I don't know. I can see that he might exist, but I don't want to take that leap of faith.
Yeah. So almost aimed at people who are somewhere between and including maybe the weak theist position and the agnostic, but not the agnostic, somewhere between that weak theist and agnostic position.
Exactly.
They're starting their belief has got so weak that they're like starting to almost fall into a form of agnosticism, but they're not quite there yet, and it's to try and reel them back in.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose that makes a lot more sense, and it would be a lot more effective in that regard. So I suppose the question is, what would you say to the apologists today who are still using Pascal's wager as a way to convince people like you or me who are already completely unconvinced?
Stop doing it. It's not going to work. Basically, to be completely blunt and upfront, it's not going to work.
No. Although I suppose we're at a point where, like we were discussing in the stream the other day, I'm no longer sure anything would work anymore. Short of something that was completely out of this world, that could just, and that was on the stream with Braxton's questions, wasn't it? Actually, when we were having that 10 questions, and it's one of those things. It's hard to find something as you've got older and done more, looked into different things to find something. Well, what would convince me? Now, obviously, if it was an omniscient God, they would know what convinced me, and if they're also all powerful, then they'd obviously be able to do it if they so wished. So Josiah says he just says that he's not interested in white belt apologetics,
and that's basically what it is. It's very,
very, very basic. Yeah, you've lost it again. I'm gonna have to buy you a power line adapter for Christmas, aren't I, Dave? If this keeps up, that way you can be plugged into an Ethernet cable.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It could also.
I mean, we didn't have this problem when we recorded the video response.
No, we haven't. This problem has only started in the last week or so. It could be a case of someone has added a new Wi-Fi router in one of the buildings near you, and if they're using the same channel as you, so I mean, there's a half decent channel scanner that I'll send you a link to after the stream, and maybe you can just change your Wi-Fi's default channel to one that's more free. As Martin says,
nice one.
Personal evidence, maybe. So, I mean, what would you regard as personal evidence there, Martin? Well, what would you find convincing? What would any of you out there in the chat room, in wherever you are, or someone rewatching this, put it in the comments? What would you find as something that would convince you that a God exists? It doesn't even have to be a particular God, although you can address a particular God as well if you wish.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult question, especially if your criticisms are at a more foundational level, like at the more definitional level.
Yeah, well, what constitutes a god?
Yeah.
If you go through the whole sort of miracle thing, like we were saying, and any form of advanced technology looks like magic or a miracle to a less evolved creature. So, how would we know that it wasn't an alien doing a particular thing that, it's very difficult indeed.
Yeah, and you see, Pascal's wager won't even work on that kind of sort of doubt, because you still have doubts and actual criticisms and reasons to disbelieve the Christian God. And that's all that Pascal is talking about in his wager, is only the Christian God.
Yeah. Fair. Well, I suppose if you're already going in with a belief, if you believe in the Christian God, you've already discounted all other gods from having existed anyway, aren't you? Because if that God does exist, then at best the other gods are demons that have come out of hell to pretend that they're gods and try and sway your faith the other way so that you end up in hell. Many don't even believe that to be the case. They just think it's fantasies of humans. So Martin says, God appearing in his house, for instance, he think he'd be convinced easily. Wouldn't be able to justify it, though. Yeah, so, I mean, how would you know that that's a God? How would you know that that's not an advanced creature that happened to have some form of teleportation or whatever that's, bang, there you go, in your house? It's one of those things that is really, really, really difficult. For me, it would have to be something that I couldn't necessarily see being done with technology. If a baby was born with every single bit of knowledge and could speak in every single language and could instantly grow to being, say, 15 years old and explain all of this to people, I mean, that's something that's so incredibly unlikely that might convince me. But even then, could that be done with technology? I don't know really, but maybe if we work out how to control genes and speed up aging process and slow it down and implant knowledge into brains, transference of consciousness, maybe even all of that is possible. But for me, it would have to be something so incredibly unlikely and disbelievable that you just have to see it to believe it, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with saying you would still have doubts about it, but it would add to the probability for you that God exists.
Yeah.
It might not set you right there, but you could say, well, the clouds spelling out, hi, it's God here, um, might lead you closer towards believing that God exists, even if it doesn't immediately convince you. You would still have some justification. Yes, it could be aliens, but it could also be God. So there's nothing wrong with saying you're not immediately admitting to irrationality or anything like that by saying that.
Yeah. I suppose in that instance, I'd probably go, which one? And if it answered, then I'd definitely be more convinced.
Yeah, that's it. I
Yeah.
think one of the problems that atheists today have is they just don't want to admit anything that might even come close to saying, well, possibly God exists. While also clinging on to the I'm not saying that God doesn't exist kind of line.
I only lack belief. So Martin says, in the words of Rick and Morty, I've been spending my life doing nothing, lady. I'm going out and bowing in praise of the thing that literally controls the weather. Opie adds, if God came and suspended the laws of thermodynamics. Yeah. I mean, what would that look like?
It'd be quite incredible. Or stopped all entropy, but still allowed you to wander around.
Even then, you could even excuse things like that with really advanced technology, couldn't you? It's really hard to actually find something that perhaps could be done, like that was so impossible that technology isn't the explanatory factor. But yes, I think the more unrealistic it gets, the more believable it becomes as well.
Yeah, exactly. See, if you want to create a new Pascal's wager, people should be working towards more arguments like that. What's more likely?
Yeah.
But yeah, Pascal's wager, if you read the original text, it's quite an interesting one. And there's people still working on Pascal's wager today and improving it and making it all about probabilities, like I say, about putting bets in lotteries. Well, you don't stand any chance of winning unless you play. But it's not going to be very convincing to somebody who already disbelieves.
Yeah. No, that's true. Or even many laxtheists.
Yeah, exactly. And like Josiah says, it's white belt apologetics. It really is beginner apologetics. It might convince a younger child these days, but not an adult.
No, I can see that being convincing to a kid. At the end of the day, it's it
Yeah,
well,
that would do it. The Bruce Almighty experience.
yeah, actually, yeah. Again, that could potentially be done with technology. I know Opie said you don't think technology could overcome that, and you're talking about the laws of thermodynamics. And I probably agree with him there. I don't think it can, but I'm thinking in the realms of what I can imagine with technology and where I see us going. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be done one day. But yes, the Bruce Almighty experience would be pretty fantastic. Imagine if every single human on Earth got to experience that and got to record it so that for generations to come, everybody knew that everyone else had had this experience so that they know for a fact that this particular deity does exist and allow them all to do that just so that there could be more people who were saved or whatever.
Well, that's one of the things about the argument. I think Matt Dillahunty uses this one. If God is omnipotent and all that, he would know what it would take to convince somebody, and if he wants to save him, then they would come up with God would show them the evidence that it would need to take to convince them. And I think that argument sort of has some merit. I know apologists often criticize it, but I do think that one sort of has some merit, and that sort of argues against the Pascal's wager as well. Well, okay,
Oh, we've lost you there again, Dave. But to repeat your argument, it's one of those things where if you think about the particular omni-god, which is supposed to be all-knowing and all-powerful and also loving, there is a bit of debate of whether it's supposed to be all-loving or just an incredibly loving god, but it's also supposed to be a perfect one. So if you have this all-knowing, all-powerful deity, then, as you say, it would know what would convince you. It would have the power to convince you. And if it loved you, then surely it would also want you to be saved from this. And it would then be able to show you that way. But then I suppose a counter to that would be, well, what if this particular deity knew that nothing would convince you? So the flip side, if it's all powerful, then surely it could convince you either way, and you go back and forth playing a bit of tennis with that one, and you end up in a situation which is pretty pointless to going back and forth between each other, going, yeah, but what about, yeah, but shh. But yeah, you're back, Dave. I don't know if you realise.
Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know what the hell's going on. I might have to do maybe the drivers become corrupt.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you just need a power line adapter or something. I said, I'll send you the port scanner afterwards.
Nice one.
Channel scanner.
It doesn't help that I'm running on like 2 hours sleep, and
No, the
I
pair
could
of us
be
are a bit
hallucinating
fucked
it all.
Yeah, you're not really here.
No, it's probably a bad thing.
In fact, the world only came into 5 minutes ago, so your connection isn't actually your connection at all.
Well, that's why it looked like it was frozen. It was just coming into being.
If you didn't get the reference there, that was about the 5-minute hypothesis, Russell's World, and also Teapot episode we did last week. As Josiah says, he does want God to be Morgan Freeman. Yeah, man. I mean, I also want him to narrate my life everywhere I walk around. You could just imagine him, and he goes into the kitchen. Just
No,
epic.
fuck that. Samuel L. Jackson.
Motherfucker! I was really disappointed when they didn't bring out the expansion pack for my Alexa with the Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson voice in the UK. It was US only. But then I later found out that you couldn't replace the actual Alexa voice. It was just you could have a chat with Samuel L. Jackson. And I was like, oh, I just want to replace my Alexa voice with Samuel L. Jackson. That'd be awesome.
That would be. I wonder, is there any good hacks out there?
It might be. I'll have a look at some point. I don't want to void my warranty there.
Fight the power. Battle Amazon.
Maybe we should just contact him on Twitter and say, look, can you just, say a few things about how shit our lives are just for inspiration? And I'll just bring it out, take out my phone anytime I need to hear it. You're one dumb motherfucker.
You could have it in the background for if anybody ever comes on stream. What do we say, Sam? What did we say, Alexa? Shut the fuck up.
I could get it as one of my samples on this, actually. Maybe that's what I should do for future. We'll just have... I'll go through his movies and take some of the best snippets out. We'll just have a night with Sam.
Yeah. But that's basically Pascal's wager covered pretty much anyway. I'm sorry it's such a short one, but I am very, very tired.
No, that's okay. I think the pair of us are running on very little sleep, and this was only going to be a quick stream. I don't know if you guys are aware, but yesterday we were recording a podcast with Reason Press.
That's how tired I am.
So that is going to be produced hopefully at this weekend. We'll send links out to all of you when you do that. We did that one on belief and knowledge. Some of you might have seen the videos that we've produced on propositional logic and beliefs and knowledge and certainty and things like that. And basically it was a conversation around that, but talking to people who had a different take on things, and they're a nice couple of guys actually. Really good chilling with them, and hopefully we can have them back on our stream. But yeah, so that's whether knowledge is a subset of belief, and the different definitions of belief, different theories of knowledge, etc. Also Thursday we're not doing a stream on our channel. I think Steve wants to have us over on his. He's going to be doing an answer to 10 questions from Trinity Radio. So hopefully we can get that one over there as well. So if you don't see us on our channel for the rest of the week, that's why.
Check out Steve McRae.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, we'll drop links to everything as soon as we have them. Coming up next week, hopefully, we're going to have a conversation with my buddy Ben. He's a trainee psychotherapist who we're going to be speaking about tribalism and the psychology of rejection, which should be an interesting one. I recently have written an article on that. I've yet to publish it, but it's basically going into the sort of things that we discuss on there. So that should be coming up next week, depending on his schedule, hopefully. But other than that, I'm just going to re-congratulate Dave on his fantastic achievement of getting his distinction in his master's degree. Absolutely fantastic. He's now definitely a certified armchair philosopher. Yes, Robert, Trinity Radio have been doing responses to those questions. And thank you for your comment on his video the other day. Really appreciate that. Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen those, but there have been a number of responses going out to. He's doing basically one episode per question, and he's including about 7 of us who given the answers. Some of the atheistic responses are pretty awful.
Disappointing. He's just released a video tonight. I noticed as I was coming on to click on our stream to make sure it was working, a video of his has popped up tonight, and it's other lack-theists answering number 2 and him responding to their answers.
Interesting. Definitely worth having a look at that one as well then. So yeah, he's going to be doing that series. Check him out. I mean, he is, as he says, is an evangelical apologist, and he's not sure which one takes priority over the other, but he's a good guy. He seems well thought out, and it's not the same old shit that you hear from the average online fundamentalist theist. It's actually a bit more interesting, and he conducts himself really well. He's someone that's I actually enjoy watching his streams, even though I don't agree with his position. So I mean, if that's not a
he's
reason
not Ray
to check
Comfort.
out. No, he's not Ray Comfort or Ken Ham.
Yeah, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. And hopefully the remaining 8 questions that he's going to be putting out we're going to see a few better responses from the others. Hopefully give me a much less of a hang my head in shame that I'm associated with these people.
Yeah. We're looking at you, godless engineer. Not to name any names or anything.
But anyway, yeah, so obviously short stream tonight. We've been covering off Pascal's wager, and we will be back on our stream next week. But on Thursday, we should be with Steve McRae, covering off Trinity Radio's 10 Questions again. Thank you, everybody who joined us in the chat and subscribed, and anyone else that's watching, whether it's live or on the rerun. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Sorry again for the short stream, but I'm...
Life's more important than a stream, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's it from us. I'm the guy on the left.
And I'm the guy on the right.
Have a good one all.
Good night all. Bye.
Bye.